Welcome to the 10th episode of GameSack. This week we're going to talk about 8-bit light gun games. You may be familiar with the Nintendo Zapper and the Sega Light Phaser, and that's what we're going to talk about. And just look at these two. This looks awesome, but the Zapper here, it looks like a little child's plaything.
Well, it looks like a plaything because it is a plaything, but it even looks more playful because some wacky government regulations says any toy gun has to have orange on it or some crap. But before that stupid regulation went through, you could have played with the original Light Zapper, which was all gray and ready to shoot.
Oh yeah, you could probably get shot by pointing that thing at a cop. But with the Sega Light Phaser, you can take a hostage if you live in Brazil. That's also how badass the Sega Light Phaser is. Anyway, Dave's going to talk about the NES Zapper games and the Zapper itself for a little bit, so let's go directly to him.
Okay, this is Duck Hunt. Everybody knows it and everybody has played it. You can choose to hunt ducks with a sarcastic dog, or you can shoot clay pigeons. It's a basic game that is still fun to play, but only in short bursts, as it will get boring very quickly. In Gumshoe, you play as a detective whose daughter has been kidnapped. The kidnappers want 5 Black Panther diamonds that you must get. The gameplay is simple. The detective walks from left to right on a scrolling screen. You need to shoot him to make him jump. Multiple shots will play like a double jump, etc. Guiding the detective into red balloons gives you more ammo. All along the way, random stuff is trying to kill you. Everything is one-hit death from bottles to cars to fish, etc. A fun game with less fun music. The music fits the game, but not your iPod. Wild Gunman made by Gunpei Yokoi of Virtual Boy fame. In this game, you have a shootout with about 5 different enemies. One at a time, you must beat them to the draw. At the beginning, the time required to pull the trigger is at a generous 1.6 seconds or so. This isn't a problem, as I usually pulled the trigger in 0.3 to 0.4 seconds. As the game progresses, the time to kill the Wild Gunman gets less and less. Overall, a decent game with very little variety. Music again fits the game, but you wouldn't want to listen to it anywhere else. Wild Gunman was featured in the movie Back to the Future 2. Little Elijah Wood didn't like it, but Michael J. Fox sure did.
Crack shot at this.
In Hogan's Alley, you pretty much feel like you are at a shooting range shooting cardboard cutouts of bad guys. As you would expect, some of the cutouts are innocent bystanders, so don't shoot them. It's a straightforward arcade game that is good for a quick play here and there, and forgot about for a couple of months or even years. There is also a mode in this game where cans fly across the screen and you must shoot them to juggle them to various platforms for different points. To the Earth by Nintendo. Wow, is this game tough. The object of this game is to shoot at incoming enemy spaceships, bombs, and other space stuff. There are 4 levels and bosses at the end of each level. The enemy ships move super fast and make it tough to hit them. They drop bombs on you which are even tougher to hit, so your shield takes a lot of abuse. If you score a hit, then your shield recoups slightly. What kind of wackiness is this? This game, believe it or not, was made by Nintendo. The team that made it was let go shortly after the release due to bad game direction. Mechanized Attack for the NES is a port from the arcade. I don't remember the arcade game, so I don't know how good of a port this is, and I can't imagine it being very good due to the NES limitations. In this game, you fight off hordes of bad guys in helicopters, battleships, etc. Some of the bad guys are very much like Terminators, as they have a metal skeleton that keeps fighting after their skin gets blown off. There are power-ups littered through each stage to help you along your way. Decent music for the time and branching paths up the replay value. Probably one of the better NES Zapper games. Freedom Force by Sunsoft. In this game, you play as an anti-terrorist badass Rad Rex. As you would expect an anti-terrorist would do, you kill massive amounts of enemies in airports, city streets, etc. Every stage is littered with terrorists and hostages and just general pedestrians going about their daily life as if walking through a firefight is normal. The game stages scroll left and then right. After levels, you get to play a game of Code Breakers, which is very much like Wheel of Fortune without the wheel. You get 5 tries to solve a word puzzle. Good luck! Music is average but not horrible. There is actually some blood in this game, so start licking your chops. Shooting Range from Bandai is a very basic Zapper game. All you do is shoot red and white plates from Indians, birds, vampires, ghosts, and witches, etc. I also hear there is a carnival-style game where you shoot glass bottles at a saloon. I didn't get there myself as I got so bored with this game I had to turn it off. Music is horrible beyond belief and graphics are just average. Operation Wolf by Taito! In this game you have to rescue 5 hostages by taking out hordes of bad guys, armored vehicles, boats, helicopters, and whatnot. There is a nice variety of stages, but all the enemies look the same. There is no music in the game levels, but the action is so fast you'll hardly notice. A decent port of the arcade and a good addition to the NES Zapper library. The Lone Ranger and Bayou Billy are actually more action games that you use the control pad for, but they do include Zapper elements. These sections are so minimal they are only a quarter of the game, if even that much. It's nice to see the variety in these game types.
The Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Okay, there were some nice clips there of Zapper games for the NES. Let's shoot it over to Joe for some Light Phaser action on the Sega Master System.
Dude, it's annoying. Anyway, there are 12 Light Phaser games available to play on the Sega Master System, and we're going to take a look at them all, so let's get to it. Everyone knows about Duck Hunt on the NES, but Sega took it to the extreme with Safari Hunt. There are many more locations and things to shoot at. You shoot at everything in sight for no reason other than you want everything dead right now. You even get to shoot at fish, rabbits, endangered jaguars, and monkeys. Boy, do I like shooting monkeys. When you finally beat this game, it also tells you to go out on a rampage with a real gun. That's right, this game would be so banned these days. Marksman shooting and trap shooting is a very basic light gun game. Marksman shooting is a basic version of Hogan's Alley, but with many more targets to shoot at as you train to join the police or FBI force or something like that. Trap shooting is exactly what it sounds like. It's better than trap shooting that is found in Duck Hunt, mainly due to the accuracy of the Sega Light Phaser. Here's the NES version. Now look at the Master System version. Which is better? You decide. Operation Wolf by Taito is truly a piece of crap. It's probably slightly worse on the Master System than it is on the NES, as this version has more flicker, but both versions are pretty bad. You have to keep your other hand on the control pad to fire bombs. Overall, this is a pretty poor effort. It was never released in the US, and I'm glad. Laser Ghost is another piece of crap game. There is some dumb broad wandering around and you need to shoot things around her or maybe give her a little nudge now and then. The goal of this game is to successfully direct this woman to the kitchen where she belongs. I really don't recommend this game very much. Now, Gangster Town is a great light phaser game. It is one of the few, if not the only, 2-player simultaneous light gun game of its time. If you have 2 light phasers, you can play with a friend or dual wield them on your own for extra fun. I don't approve of organized crime! It has a wide variety of different stages. The accuracy is so precise that you can shoot the hats off the gangsters or the small glass bottles on the wall behind them. When you shoot a gangster, his soul appears and begins to travel upward, but you can shoot the soul itself and kill it out of spite. In this game, it is you who passes final judgment. You can even shoot rats, but all rats go to heaven, so you can't shoot their little rat souls. This game is pretty short, but it's also pretty damn awesome. Rescue Mission is kind of innovative for its time and definitely fun. You need to keep the medic alive while he trucks himself around the rail on a handcart and fixes our wounded soldiers. But the enemy is going balls out trying to kill the medic. It can get extremely hectic at times, but it never becomes unfun. It is a bit easy, but it is worth playing through now and again. A worthy addition to the collection. Shooting Gallery is another game where you shoot things, obviously. This game has a few different stages and objectives to complete, and when you miss, you blow part of the wall scenery off, which I think is pretty cool. The game is harder than you might think, and it's not horrible, but overall, you can tell it's a fairly early effort. Assault City comes in either a control pad version or a light phaser version. For some reason, they just couldn't figure out how to put both versions on the same cartridge. You start out shooting targets, which determines your difficulty, and this takes forever. When the game finally starts, I am reminded of T2, the arcade game for the Menacer. It's pretty hectic and unforgiving, but it's also pretty boring by today's standards. Even more boring is Space Gun by Taito. I think this is a translation of an arcade game, I have no idea. It moves at a very slow pace. It has first-person scenes where you shoot alien monsters as well as side-scrolling ones where you do the exact same thing, only from the side. It is insanely easy. I beat this game the very first time I played it. Still, I'd rather play this than something like Operation Wolf. Wanted reminds me of Gangster Town if it were a western and dumbed down a little. You shoot bosses at the end of many scenes, just like in Gangster Town. Overall, the game is pretty damn good, but it can be kind of hard to tell if a cowboy is a bad guy or a good guy because everyone dresses the same in this town. Only if they point their guns at you is it okay to shoot them, otherwise you're penalized. The game has a good amount of variety, and it is worth owning. The other two games that round out the Sega Light Phaser collection are Rambo 3 and, of course, Missile Defense 3D. We won't go over them in detail here as we've already done that in previous episodes, but they are both great games. Gotta buy them all. And that wraps up our look at the Sega Master System Light Phaser games. Dave, why don't you tell the world what you think of the Nintendo Zapper overall?
Well, the Nintendo Zapper is a comfortable gun to hold. It's got flaws just like everything else. It's got this really clicky trigger, and
I imagine that makes it a lot harder to pull.
Yeah, it makes it harder to pull, and it's just annoyingly loud. You do notice it. It has some flaws when you're playing the game. Its accuracy is not quite there. The screen flashes pretty bad when you pull the trigger. You do notice it every time, but it's something that you can get over. It's got a decent library of games for it, which is what you really want with a good system. Overall, it's cool. It's worth it, and I'm glad I do have it. So, Joe, tell me what you think about the Light Phaser.
Well, I think the Light Phaser is pretty awesome. It's very comfortable to hold. The trigger is very easy to pull. It is extremely accurate. It's not, like as accurate as the newer light guns these days, but for an 8-bit gun, it's very accurate. It looks really cool. The games, all of them aren't a winner, but there's a lot of good ones there. I think it's worth owning. But overall, I think the Sega Light Phaser wins this battle. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think it wins. It wins hands down. No problem.